Trice Lawrence with Sulphur Springs Friends of the Public Library has a successful ongoing book sale in the foyer of the library. It's so successful, they need more books. And you're welcome to donate your gently read books.
The city can't afford to fund things like buying a puppet stage or paying for food or refreshments for summer reading program. They've got potholes to fill and police to pay, and we understand that. So the sole purpose of Friends of the Library is to raise funds for the library, and we don't hold big fundraisers and we don't hold galas anymore, and every penny we raise goes straight to the library. And we raise those pennies by the continuing book sale in the lobby of the library. Previously, there was a book sale once a year, and people would bring in tens of thousands of volumes, and they would be Grandpa's old National Geographics from 1968. They'd be dusty and musty. It would be like DOS 301 for dummies. I mean, things that people didn't want, don't use, and a library doesn't want, can't use. So what we're soliciting, and like any nonprofit organization, we often have to seek help from the public, and what we're asking for is gently read, recent hardbacks preferably. The most popular books that always fly off the shelf are crime fiction, James Patterson, Nelson DeMille, Lee Childs, Sarah Paretsky, Janet Ivanovich, Sue Grafton, people like that.
So people seem to like to read crime fiction.
And thrillers and psychological thrillers, and then, of course, children's books. So what we need the most of is recent, hardbound crime, thriller, psychological fiction, and children's books. And then, of course, people always like biographies and gardening books and cookbooks and how-to books. And people can bring their donations by the library anytime the library is open. So go to the front desk and say, I have a donation, they'll take them.
That's wonderful, and it's helpful. Now, and that sort of evolved over time because previously there were certain days, but now just erase all that.
Anytime the library is open, the public can bring donations to the library, not any particular day, any day.
And I'm always amazed at the variety of books that you have on your rack there. How much that little rack, it's a four-sided rack, and it's almost, it's 5 feet tall or something. How many books can be stored on there, and obviously how many are placed?
Well, for the last few years, we've been able to raise on the area of $3,000, $4,000 each year just by selling the books in the library. And if people want to help, most organizations ask them to donate money or time, and of course we would take that. If you want to donate money, you can send a check to Post Office Box 1281.
Okay.
If you want to donate time, you can contact my wife, Pat Lawrence, at 903-885-4506, or the library. Contact the librarian, Hope Kame. But the biggest help people can do is just to bring in gently read, late fiction, nonfiction, hardbound books. Hardbound because these days a new book costs $28, $30, and people will gladly pay $5 or $10 for one in good shape of an author they like in a series they're reading. That's a really good deal to buy a nice, nearly new book for $5 or $10. Paperbacks, on the other hand, people pay a nickel, a dime, or a quarter, and that's fine. We don't put prices on the kiosk. The price is what you, the individual, feel like it's worth to you. And we've had people come in and pick up 25 books and leave a quarter. And we've had people who are readers and who like books, and they'll pay $5 or $10 for a hardbound. But all of that money is used for such things as we buy puppet stages, we buy printers, we fund. Each year the library has a summer reading program, and previously the Golden Kiwanis funded that. But with the demise of the Golden Kiwanis, we assumed that, and it's $2,500 to buy the books and buy the food and pay the performers for petting zoos and magicians and things like that. Okay. That's what Friends does, and we've been very successful, but now we're almost completely out of children's books and crime fiction thrillers.
So thus your supply of book sale items has diminished, and they're being sold.
Yes.
People are buying them. I won't say they're flying off the shelves, but something like that.
There's another popular form that people really like. I call them bodice rippers, the romance fiction.
Yeah.
But they're mostly paperback, and people will pay nickel, dime, quarter for paperback books. Yeah. And soon I'll be putting romance all over the shelves because we're out of everything else.
Well, when I've gone down there, I've noticed things like books about a politician, let's say about a past president, or so, and it gives a lot of pictures of their career and biography. And if you like collecting that or learning about these people, these prominent people,
lots of biographies. We have a very popular book that doesn't stay long as a cookbook. Gardening books don't stay very long. Biographies of late people, of people in the news, Kennedys and Nixon, and even people in the news from the 60s and 70s. People like to read about it. And of course, always Hollywood stuff. They're first-person biographies, autobiographies of various stars as told to, and they go fairly quickly.
I like looking at pictures in books. I know we can do any of that on the internet, but still I like the feel of a book.
I know I'm old-fashioned, but I'm a tactile person, and an electric book reader doesn't feel the same to me. Now, if I were traveling on an airplane or something and you could take 25 books in an e-reader, that's great. But a book is something that only recently computers have come. It's randomly, dynamically accessible. You can flip to any page in the book immediately. You
can use it without electricity.
Go forward and back, right. I think real readers really like books. There's something about holding a book in your lap or in your hands and reading it as opposed to holding an iPad or an e-reader. And I'm not against those. I think they're wonderful devices.
On my mother's bookshelf is a little ceramic thing, only 4 inches tall, of a kneeling child looking at a book. And all my life, I guess I've seen that thing around, but it didn't really have an impact until just the other day. I looked at that and I thought, how many little children like to read a book?
My wife has a little girl angel kneeling reading a book like that. It's the same thing. It's just the most engaging little statue of this little child reading a book. But if you think about it, until the internet and until television, books were the window to the world for most people. They had no opportunity to travel. They didn't see what it was like in other lands and places. And even now, teenagers, if at the right time in their life, it impacts them and they learn to read and they learn to enjoy reading and they get the adventure of reading, it changes their lives.
I agree.
And even with all of the games and all of the electronics, it's surprising. Teenagers still read, and they read a lot. We have a young adult and teen fiction section there, and those books move very quickly. They really like to read.
Now we come to the part where, yes, those of us who read have a lot of books, more books than we've already read them, and they're on the shelf, but how do we make ourselves take them down to the library?
Well, most of us will read a series, an author, a crime fiction or a thriller or something, and we read first, second, third, fourth, but then by the time of the 6th book, we've got them double stacked on our shelves. We've run out of shelf space, and we hate to turn loose of them, but we're also not going to read them again.
Yeah.
You know that. You've got books that have been sitting there for years that you really don't want to turn loose of, but you're not going to read. So those are the books that we hope people will bring in, the good books.
And you can bless someone else with it.
Yes, and I'm not sure who buys the books. And another point I want to make is that that's not a charity book sale. The money is used to support the library. So if you go in and you can afford to go buy $25 for a new book, and you buy one there for $5, you're not taking a book away from someone else who needed to buy it, less expensively. The whole purpose of it is for people to buy the books. So it's not just for less advantaged people to buy books, although many people do. The children's books go so quickly because people who don't have the means, children's books are almost as expensive as regular books now. They're nearly $20 a copy for a children's book. So people that don't have that kind of money come and buy the children's book for their children. But as I said, anyone can buy. That's we want them to. That's what they're there for.
Well, recently I found a beautiful children's storybook, a collection of stories that was in beautiful condition on your book sales shelf, and I bought it for a young woman who was expecting a child, a young family, and so that's I saw it on their shelf when I went to visit the baby. It's like one of their prized possessions because it's not brand new. It has some vintageness to it.
People bring their treasured books to the library. The ones they liked are the ones they want to share with other people, and it's so eclectic. There was a gentleman who liked archaeology, and he had a whole series of books on archaeology. Well, most of us don't like or care about archaeology, but he had some really good books. And so they're military histories. There are people in town that are buffs about World War II or Korea or Civil War, and they have really good books in their collection, and they'll bring them. And those turn over very quickly.
Really, you never know what you will see on those shelves.
Exactly. I tried to have them set up, and generally they are in categories. There's a nonfiction section and a fiction section and a crime section, but they get all jumbled up, and people pick them up and look at them and put them back, and that's okay. That's what we want them to do. So,
we do appreciate all that you are doing, Trice and your wife Pat, and others who are in the Friends of the Library. And this is not something that just started.
No, the organization as an organization has sort of withered. It's difficult to ask people for time these days. And the purpose was twofold originally, well, threefold, to build the building. But once that was done, Friends was to support the library monetarily, and we do that. And we're doing that without a lot of members. The second purpose, or third purpose, was to provide a volunteer pool for the library when they were having activities and they needed people to help with a petting zoo or with a summer reading program. And our membership has dwindled, but our primary goal is to fund the library, and we're accomplishing that. So as I said, if people are interested in membership, the post office box number is 1281 in town. They can call Hope Kane at the library, or they can call my wife Pat at 903-885-4506. An annual membership is $26, and we have categories of memberships. But we're not really soliciting members so much as we are donations of books. The main thing that people can do to help the library is give their books rather than their time. And always, as I said, money. We'll always take money.
Well, the next time you go to Sulphur Springs Public Library, that beautiful place that used to be where the hospital was, then you walk into the foyer, which is the only door you can go in, and you're going to have to see the book sale rack as you go through.
It's right in front. It's a kiosk in the library. The location for the Genealogical Society is now to the right, and where temporary voting used to be held. And the kiosk is in the lobby before you enter the library. And again, the pricing is what it's worth to you, what you as an individual feel that book is worth, knowing that it's to support the library.